Good morning, this is Brenda Salzano. I'm here with my clip-on bags today. Let me show you one up first that's already made. This is not the one we're sewing today. They come with two snaps, one on each side, so they clip right on your jeans or a backpack, or you can hang them up in the shop where you're working, whether you're an artist or whatever you're doing. These are great for men and women, also for kids. I put a button on this one, but it's not a functional button. It's just there to kind of weight down the flap. On the fat quarter, you're going to get everything except for the hardware. So when you get it, you're going to get the lining material. You're going to get the tabs. That's this part here, at the front and the back, and all the lining. So that's all on one fat quarter, and I have lots of different designs now. And you can just go to my Spoonflower account, and you'll look under collections, do it yourself, cut and sew. And that's all my cut and sews there. This one is my fly fishing one, and it has the wood inside. So that's what they look like. And they're real fast and easy to do. The one we're doing today is steampunk. So this one will have lots of vintage clocks and gears, and it has a really cool lady clock that I saw, this old clock, and she was shaped out of wood, and the face is of the clock. So this is the steampunk one that I'm doing today. And of course, your instructions will be printed out on your fat quarter also, and you just cut those out, put them by your machine, and then follow along. So we've already cut out everything on the solid black lines. That was number one. The next one is to sew the bottom and the sides of one of the sides. It says start with the lining, and you don't have to have one as the lining and one as the other. I mean, you can switch like one of each. Like if you want a different one on the front, a different one on the back, go ahead and switch them around. They're all the same. But what I'm going to do first is, since this says to go ahead and do the bottom and the sides. So I'm going to do the sides first. And I'm doing the lining one first. I use a small width, like a 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch. Go ahead and do the other side. So I've got both sides done. Now I'm going to do the bottom. I'm not going to I'm not going to sew the box corners. See those both sides? Don't sew those. So now I'm doing just the bottom. On the bottom, there's a little bit of the print there. You may want to do that like a full 1/4 inch if you don't want any of that showing. Sometimes right where I wrote it there where it says bottom, some of that print sometimes shows just a little bit. So if you don't want that to show up on the outside or on the inside, whatever ones you're doing, then you can do it a little wider. It's not going to hurt anything. Just makes it a little, maybe lose a little bit of it. And now I'll show you how to do these box corners. So here's the side seam. Here's the bottom seam. This is your box corner, and you put your 2 fingers in there and spread them out. And then we're going to line up the bottom seam to the side seam. So you can see it there. The bottom seam and the side seam. And then we're going to stitch across diagonally. And I press one seam one way, one seam the other way, so that you don't have any bulk there. The reason for the box corner is to give you more room in the bottom of your bag so that you can put bigger things down there. Otherwise, it would be flat like an envelope, and you can't get big things in an envelope. I stitched that 2 times across because I feel like those corners need extra stitching. So now you have your first box, and you can see the side and the bottom, and now it's like a box. See, it will hold more down there. Now we'll do the other one. So you just put your fingers down in there, line up the 2 seams, and we're going to stitch across that. The main thing is not to have any holes showing, so you may go a little more than a 1/8 inch to go across that. Just make sure that nothing's left open there. I'll show you what I mean here. You can see it looks a little uneven here, but I wanted to make sure that I got everything in this seam. So now I can trim this off and even it up so it's nice and even. And again, there's the little box look on both sides now. So that is now our lining. You can see there's the lining. I'll set that aside. We're going to do the exact same thing now on the outer material. Now you can clip these to hold them. I've been doing it for such a long time. I just hold it with my fingers. You can also clip down your seams if you've got, a big bulk. Just don't get too close to your stitching so that it doesn't rip out. Just to reduce the amount of material that you have when you're putting in your lining and everything. Makes it lie a lot better. Now I'm going to do, here's how it looks flat. Now I'm going to do the very bottom hem, and then we'll do the box corners on this. I used to call them, what do I call them? A back box pleat. That's not what they called. I finally looked it up, and sure enough, they call it box corner. I totally didn't know what they were talking about until I saw somebody do it, and then it was just like, oh, that's pretty easy. I'm just trimming these as I go along. Okay, now we're going to open this up, line up the 2 seams, the side seam and the bottom. Fold the seams one way and then the other one the other way so it's flat. Now we're going to sew diagonal across. And again, I'm going to do this twice so that the stitches are nice and firm. And trim. By the way, a real handy thing is to just keep a paper bag from the grocery store and right underneath my where I'm working, so I can just like swipe off my things that I need to throw away, and right there, and they just fall right in the trash, so I don't have to reach far or anything. Yeah, that looks good. Got that one done. Now we're going to do the other one. This is the last one of the box pleats that we have to do. This one didn't need much trimming, just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to do the next step. So we did the linings, the sides. We're going to do the same now with the flap. So this is our flap. Again, we have two different sides on this. We got the inside and the outside, or when you reverse it, it's going to be reversed. This one, we're not going to sew the bottom because that has to be eventually flipped back out. So we're going to leave this bottom open, but we're going to sew all the way around. And this is where, if you don't want this tip like this, you can round it. You can round it off. You can go straight across. You can decide what to do on that. I think I'm just going to cut across and make it. I'm just going to cut that now, the little tip. So that my tip is like that. So I'm just going to do everything except for the bottom, and I'm going to stitch that all around, right sides together. Remember to stop and then pivot on your material. That way it turns that corner easier. And just stop with your needle down and then pivot. Get where you want, lift, pivot, and then do the rest. Back stitch that. Now we have this part done, and I believe this one, we go ahead and turn it inside out. You can, you should have your iron on. And then iron this when you're done. To save time for the video, though, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to kind of press it with my fingers. Make sure that it's turned inside out good. You know, all those little... If you have any real big corners, if you made it round or something, you may want to go back in and clip those before you turn it inside out. Oh, there you can see the piece there. Oh, and it'll be on the bag like that. So you can see that this is, I made it, when I created this, I make it so that when the flap, it looks like it's upside down right here. But when it's on your purse, it's like this, so that these are all upside right. And then, of course, this is the other side. Now, you could do it separate, like I said before, is that you can interchange these. So normally, you know, for this one especially, I want this to be on the outside of the purse. But you could have this as a contrast as the outside of the purse. So if your purse, let me just show you real quick here. So your purse is going to look like this, but it could, if you wanted, you could have it with the contrast flap this way. So you can decide which way you want it. So the last thing let's see, not the last thing, but the other thing that I want to make is that, I'll show you real quick, is your tabs that hold your snaps. This is 2 tabs. I've cut it out, and what I'm going to do is hem it and sew it all the way around. First, I'm just going to hem the 2 sides, and then I'll sew it together. I usually save thread by ironing it, and then I just sew it one time, but I'm going to have to sew this. I'm not going to take time to do the iron. And I'm just hemming the long sides, not the bottoms, because that's going to be sewn into the bag. And this, see, I hemmed the sides on that. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to fold it, and I'm going to sew around the whole thing, so it'll be nice and strong. You're sewing back over where you just sewed. That's what I mean. You could save time and save thread by ironing it and then just sewing it once. Now you can see, there's what it looks like. And now that little black line means that's where you're going to clip it. Now we have 2 threads there. We have 2 fobs, or tag, you know, the little things just put our snaps on. Let me go get the snaps. I picked out a nice bronze snap. And as you can see, this goes right in there. I'm going to put it this way. And that's going in the bag. And I'm going to, I do have ordered a better setup for when I'm doing these videos. It's not here yet, so I'm still having to make do with trying to set up my camera and everything in awkward positions. They'll be better once I get this out. Okay, these are ready now. So we have the 2 bodies, which is, and the flap that we've done. All these are ready, and it's the assembly one. Excuse me while I get a drink of tea. Now how these fit together. Let's make sure that I do this right. I believe this outside has to be inside out like this. The flap has to go down inside this bag. And I believe it, because either side, you can see in here. So either side can be your front or their back. So you're going to decide whichever is going to be your back, then your flap will have to go against that. So if I haven't forgotten, it's right sides together to the back for the design that you want. Let me show you. If I want this side to be on the outside of my purse to match the outside of the purse, then I'm going to put it facing right sides together. Remember, right sides together. Now if I wanted this side to be on the outside of the bag, which still would be pretty, then I'd put that towards the outside. Does that make sense? So if I want the regular fabric to be on the outside, we want these right sides together, pattern to pattern. If I want the contrast, we want contrast to the outside on the back. I'm going to attempt. I did it wrong when I was first starting out. I may do it wrong again. Okay, I've got right sides together, pattern together, facing the back. And that's the one I have in here now is the flap. So that goes in here, and then you line this up to see if that's all going to fit good, and it looks really good. Now, first thing I'm going to do, that's why I clipped these, is right along this side seam. I mean, you're going to center this. You're going to center this inside the bag. You see that? I'm centering this right with that seam. You can see the seam there. Here's the seam down here. So I'm going to center this tab. I'll just open this seam up a little bit like that, and I'm going to clip it there, and that's where that's going to be. There, I've got that clipped on there. I'm going to do the same thing over on the opposite side. We've got one more seam inside the bag. I'll line it up so it's in the center of that seam. And clip that inside the bag. So they're inside the bag, both of them are inside the bag, and this loose one, of course, is the flap. I'm going to take that out just a second. I believe the lining now, I'm going to turn that inside out. I think this is how it goes. Some stray strings. Okay, now this is how it looks inside. That's the liner. The liner now is facing right sides together of the fabric. My flap is going to go print to print in the back, what I've determined is the back. And you're probably going to have to bend the little pointy end down under just a little bit. It's not going to get sewn, so you can just point it just so you can get this all down evenly. Because what I'm doing now is I'm going to clip this to fit all the way around. And I'm clipping right next to the, I'm going to clip this starting here. I'm lining up 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 layers there, 2 on the flap, and all that, and the back one. So that's 3. I'm going to start clipping those together. So across the back of this. So we start there. I'm going to go ahead and do this other side. I'll show you this. I'll show you this better here in just a second once I get this clipped on here. That's my dog who thinks somebody's at the door. Now, along this back, and that's this part here, this is the back, we have the tabs on both ends, and the little clamps are down, the little snaps are down inside because they're going to be turned out. Right now we're working kind of backwards, mirroring. So all along this back side, I'm clipping this down along here is because there's three things here. See if I can show you. So you have the outside, we have one side of the flap, and then the other side of the flap. All of these are going on this side. This side, which is the front, we haven't done anything with yet. We're just concentrating on getting this all put down and these little clips put down to keep that in order. It's not hard. It's just that you have to work with it just a little bit. And once you do a couple of them, you'll whiz through it. Now I've got this liner to worry about. So the last one I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back through all my little clips. You can see I'm going to, now there was 3 there. Now I'm going to add the last one, and that's the back side of the liner. So I'm going to add that to those 3. That makes 4 pieces of fabric that are going underneath here. Now you don't even see the flap because remember that's put inside. Both loose ends of that flap because remember that flap wasn't sewed on one side. That's okay because it's going to get sewed up when we do that back side. What we do, now I've got this all on here now. I've got all 4 layers now on this side here. This is the front. It only has 2 layers, but we're not going to sew that because we need something open for when we flip this all inside out. So that will wait. Meanwhile, I'm going to work and slowly just stitch from this snap and the tab all the way to this tab and the snap. And I'm going to leave the front open for now. And I do it slowly so that I can kind of ease it in. you're easing all those fabrics in. And again, this is going to be about 1/8, maybe a little bit more. You're going to have to kind of gauge it so that you make sure you're not too close to the end of any of those layers that you put in here. And just take it slow. You're going to feel that snap, the end of that snap on one side. Obviously, you want to stay in between the end of the fabric and the snap. Occasionally I found I'd have to make a little tiny tuck, and I usually do that right near one of the end snap places. If you have to make a tuck to take up some fabric, that's the place to put a tiny little tuck. And don't worry if you make little errors. No, that's gonna happen when you're sewing. You can sometimes if you've left a little gap, you can go back and either sew it with the machine, or you could do a little hand stitch or something. And it's no big deal if you have to, when you're just beginning, if you have to take it out, go ahead and take it out and do it again. It just makes you learn more about sewing, and pretty soon you won't be making those mistakes anymore. I go about 1/4 inch past where my tab is to go back and forth a few times. Now comes the big reveal, right? What side do I have for the outside of that flap? So we're going to turn it inside. We're turning it all inside out. We're getting all of it's out. See, so you're going to see something like this, right? This is what you got now. Then you're going to tuck the liner back inside. So you take that back in and tuck it inside. That's why we left that whole front to work with. So first you pull it all out, and then you put some back in. And what we have, as you see this, aha! We have the right side on the outside. And once we sew up this part, it'll be completely reversible too. So that's how easy it is. And you don't have to do any straps. What I usually do is if you pull this tight, I'll go ahead and do it. If you want to wait a little bit longer to watch a video. I pull these tight, and you can kind of see they kind of go in by themselves. See, kind of see that they're folding. And then just do one side at a time, and then just kind of crimp it. This is where the iron would have come down. But you can hand do it, just pulling your fingers across there will kind of make an indent where you want to sew. Then do the same with the second liner. And you can kind of see, there. I've got them folded inside. So no raw edges are showing. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to top stitch this. I'll just top stitch this along. Right. sure that I don't have that lapped the wrong way. I'm going to try to get that right close to the edge, but not over. Yeah, there we go. Now all you have to do is embellish it. There's one other thing you can do is you can top stitch along these edges here. It makes it look neater. So you have your inside and you have your little flap, and you can now add like a pretty button or a piece of Velcro on both sides, and your snap-on bag is ready to go. And that's all there is to it. It took us 37 minutes, and that's me stopping and talking too. So it's a nice, quick, easy product to make or a gift to make, and it's heavy-duty little bag. You'll see pictures on my blog, and there's more links of the other styles all on my Spoonflower site. So whether you go to the blog, and it'll be a drop-down menu for how to do all the do-it-yourself cut and sews. There'll be a drop-down menu that has a list of everything. Snap-on bags are all made the same. And then on Spoonflower, you'll find them under the do-it-yourself cut and sew collections. And that's all of the quick projects there. The fabric itself is also on the Spoonflower site. And just look for Steampunk there on that one. Hope you enjoyed making this little bag, and I hope you'll try them out. Don't be intimidated by the little box corners or flipping this thing in and out. And remember, it's a reversible. You can flip the whole thing in and out. So have fun, and we'll talk to you later on. Bye.